This is an extraordinary project. Remedy here profess a new approach to game development. At first, it may seem as a more or less typical thriller with horror elements, but in fact it is not a video game in a traditional sense. It is something like an arthouse project, very pretentious and creative. As for actual game design elements, it got inconsistent pacing, the gameplay is drowning in all these visions, mind temples, storyboards, manuscript pages, and sketchy narrations with various timelines and dimensions. It is stuck in all these outrageous narration efforts, so overall gameplay experience suffers trying to keep up. But could the talented dev team screw this up, or we should consider this project from a different angle? Let's thoroughly consider its design elements and determine what the sequel of an excellent project has turned into. So check the battery in your flashlight and grab the clicker. We are plunging into the darkest depths of Alan Wake 2. First of all, when you create a product, you should determine the target audience. So in this case, it is very difficult to say who exactly the devs are targeting. Original game was a quite decent mystical thriller, but this project in its narrative-driven essence got drug-addicted like hallucinations and delusions of a mental disorder. Such artworks are not intended for a wide audience praise. It is made for, let's call it, connoisseurs and spoiled critics who will admire the courage and pretentiousness of the authors. But here's a secret. Narrative design of this project made exclusively to amuse the hypertrophied ego of Sam Lake, who has now gone beyond all reasonable boundaries. There are scenes that have nothing to do with the storyline or gameplay, only clumsy performance of Sam himself and his favorite musicians from Old Gods of Asgard. All this just looks out of place. Now let's talk about core gameplay. Structurally, game offers you to switch between two protagonists, FBI agent Sega Anderson and Alan himself, to walk through different parts of the story. And if the gameplay for Saga partially resembles the modern remakes of Resident Evil, but with 10 times less action and weaker puzzle design, so gameplay for Alan is just an insane psychedelic adventure. And very often you just catch yourself thinking, what the hell is going on here? There's almost no gameplay in a traditional sense. Most of the time you will wander through the same locations. The level of backtracking here is simply prohibitive, switching between different scenes, traveling either in time or to other dimensions. And all this wrapped around by so many things like Dark Spirit of the Lake, the sketch Alan Wake's doppelganger, the manuscript story fragments, the magical clicker, and so many other events and details, so it turns into a complete mess. Bit by bit, by the end of the game, player will complete this plot puzzle, but process itself is frustrating. It's just too much of it. But if we thoroughly consider the main storyline, it is just flat as the plane of the lake cauldron. The characters got no personal development and moral conflicts. Their motivation are trivial. Save the missing wife or the town from the dark entity. All these narration techniques are amateurish. The plot is not sophisticated. We already met this in previous projects of the studio, but their gameplay came first. The original Alan Wake, as well as the Max Payne, got exciting gameplay with deep atmosphere. Combat encounters and puzzles was enhanced by decent level design, visuals and music. And now just look at this mess. Rip the atmosphere. But once again we can see how Sam Lake make faces. Don't get me wrong, I think he's not only a good writer, but a decent actor with a memorable appearance and face expression. But there should be a limit. Especially this scene is just cringe fatality. Alright, let's briefly talk about the other elements. Level design is great, but with the confusing transitions between sections, like a huge reservoir that looks like a temple deep in the subway tunnels, or an elevator that leads directly into the apartment, the forest maze that's hard to navigate through, and so on. Puzzles, as I said earlier, mostly simple, lacking of new mechanics and ideas. On the bright side, the stunning visuals. It is certainly one of the best elements of the project. The details, effects and lighting is at the top notch. As well as the sound design, despite the fact that the Old Gods of Asgard actually called Poets of the Fall, using the game's budget to produce their music videos. Anyway, as a result, if we consider Alan Wake 2 as an artwork, it is definitely an outstanding example of creative media mashup. But as a video game, it got tedious gameplay and controversial design. It is a tribute to a Remedy team and all their projects. But this one turned out to be too ambitious in terms of the implementation of creative ideas, and too weak in terms of the basic values that such games should provide player with, namely exciting gameplay and atmosphere. I believe that Remedy got talent and potential to make the projects with a great gameplay. Sadly, but this is not the case. On that note, I wanna thank you very much for watching, and if you like this video, you know what to do. I'll see you soon. Bye.